Hello, everybody, and welcome to the PC Gamer Show. That's right, the portable console gamer show, where we'll be talking about the Nintendo Switch for the next hour and a half. Hey, whoa. Okay, fine.
Yes! I'm so excited.
No, welcome to the PC Gamer Show, the personal computer gamer show. When was the last time anybody called it a personal computer? I'm not sure, but we're here to talk about PC things, PC games, graphics cards, CPUs, all that jazz. That we love so much.
Yeah.
My name is Tom Marks, your host as always. Joining me today is Mr. Bo Moore. Bo, how you doing?
I'm doing quite well. Thank you, Tom. Happy to be here.
Glad to have you on. And we're also joined by now returned to his digital box, Steven Mesner.
They only let me out for a week. That's all I got.
Banished back to the Shadow Realm.
That's right. The mirror world, the underneath.
Yeah.
Where the Gorgon is.
The upside down.
Yeah, there you go.
Upside down. I was like, that doesn't sound right.
It's like the Costco brand, the underneath.
Yeah, the president's choice of dark worlds.
Yeah. We got a good show for you today. It's going to be a little bit of an odd one. To be frank, I think I'll leave that for later. We're going to be talking about the 1080 Ti and AMD's Ryzen a bit because we mentioned it both on the show at the very beginning last week. But we had Gary Burchell on. It was a great show, but we were just kind of distracted by GDC things, and there was a lot of other stuff going on. And we have Bo on though, so we can actually talk some hardware today because those are two pretty damn significant things. It's an exciting moment in the hardware world, at least in like the high end hardware world.
There's a lot going on there for sure.
We're also going to be talking about Overwatch's new hero, which has been announced and is on the PTR right now. Supposedly coming a little later this month and a longer turnaround than the other heroes that have been on the PTR. But we're going to look at Orisa. We're going to talk about her abilities and kind of just, I don't know. I don't like the design of the character. Steven, you are like radioactive red right now.
Okay.
Try like half light.
I was just trying to adjust the lighting because it's real weird in this room. I'm sorry.
Anyway, we're going to talk about Orisa because I think it's an exciting thing to talk about. We'll also be talking about what we've been playing recently, which, as I was going to allude to, the answer for some of us might be Zelda, and please don't be mad at us for that. But we will talk about other things too, I promise. And we'll also be talking about, or taking your questions from Twitch chat. As always, we got some subs rolling in. Jaeger X Bomb, and thank you very much for the subscribe, and Dodo UK for the 4-month resubscription. We love you guys, even if we joke about Switch things. So thank you very much. We're also real quick. Let's start off with some news. I think the main news thing that I want to pull out from today is actually No Man's Sky's patch. I think this is an interesting little topic to dig into. Just briefly, for those of you who didn't hear, No Man's Sky got a Pathfinder update. It's called today. I'll post a link in the in the chat, but you can also go to pcgamer.com/no-mans-sky, and you can read about it there. Chris is diving into the patch right now because it just went live. It seems funny to me to still be like talking about No Man's Sky stuff, but like this is their second major patch to the game. They added ground vehicles. They added Steam Workshop support actually, so that you can build like a crazy base like they did in the base building patch, the last one, and then like take your design and put it online and like other people can download it. And I think you can even actually run across other people's stuff just in like in the world now. I'm not sure if that's 100% the case, but I know you can see other stuff basically, and you can see other people's creations, which is, at least for me, gives more of a reason to actually build cool looking stuff if you can share it.
Yeah.
But yeah, what are your guys' thoughts on that? What are you thinking about like either the patch or just like the fact that No Man's Sky is still a thing to a degree?
Well, I've played none of it and have largely ignored it, so okay. I'm absolutely the person to talk about it.
Yeah, for me.
Go ahead,
sorry, Bo. Go ahead.
Please.
Okay. Yeah, for me, it's I don't know. I think it's a little bit of a case of too little, too late. I think No Man's Sky is steadily evolving from what was sort of like a really interesting concept into just another generic like early access survival game.
Of which there are certainly not enough. Can we have like 4
that's
more?
right. There's a real drought of early access survival games right now, and so I'm really glad that No Man's Sky's stepping into those shoes. No, so I think it's a cool update. There's some interesting features there that I think I'll probably jump back in and try out, but I just can't muster even like the faintest modicum of enthusiasm towards that game at this point anymore. And I don't think, I think it's awesome if you're someone who still likes No Man's Sky. If you're excited by this update, fantastic. But for me, I think it's just No Man's Sky had its chance and it blew it for me.
I'll say the same thing that I said when the base building patch came out, which is like, this is a cool update. It looks nice. It looks like it adds some nice stuff, and it adds absolutely nothing that like actually gets me interested in playing the game again.
Right.
Well, actually, I go a little too far in saying nothing, because I did just reread, and you can now just, like, if you upload your base online, like if you make a base and you like share it, like other people can just like happen across it.
That is pretty cool.
And like it'll say you made it. And that actually goes a little bit towards adding some of the interesting, or what would be interesting about that game to me, which is like finding actually interesting and unique things as you explore.
Yeah.
Crowdsourcing that is a smart idea.
Like, to me, I pretty much lost all interest in that game when the news came out that it's like fully single player and you can't encounter other people like at all. And so this kind of gets you at least a little bit closer to that original promise of like this big giant world that you can explore and discover stuff, and it's totally new and crazy. Like, this adds a little bit of humanity to that you come across these things, and I'm sure there will be people who like design things that are maybe like in ruins or something. Like, that would be pretty cool. Like, you come across something that's I have no idea what the creator tools actually allow you to do, but yeah, to make stuff, upload it, and then have it randomly appear, and you come across these cool bases and civilizations and whatever. So
yeah, well,
it's interesting.
We don't have to spend too much time on it because the patch did just go live. We haven't had a chance to dig into it. Like I said, our very own survival man, Chris Livingston, is in it right now. But No Man's Sky patch, all right. So let's move on to what we have been playing recently. I'm going to start it off by admitting that Legend of Zelda for Breath of the Wild for the Switch has been taking up a lot of my time. I'd say the vast majority. So don't hold that against me, guys. It's never coming to PC, so I'm not cheating on the platform or anything like that. But I've been really enjoying that. But the game I've also been playing, I've been sneaking in between. That is more Hollow Knight. I talked about it on the show last week. I actually wrote a whole article for the site full of beautiful little GIFs of that game's just like amazingly charming art. And it's just like a fantastic game. I dug into it a bit last week, but I'll just touch on it again, that like it's a Metroidvania 2D platformer, hack and slashy, very Dark Soulsy, grim, sad world, but also very adorable hand-drawn art. Like, everything in the game is hand-drawn, and it's just like, it's just really good. Like, I hear that they patched the game to help with the performance issues that I mentioned last week, so they already are addressing that, and apparently there's still work to be done, and there's another patch coming later this week. So I'm glad to see that they're addressing that stuff, and I'm just like, I'm so excited to play more of that game that I'm actually kind of like mad that I'm enjoying Zelda so much that it's like taking time away from these other indie games that I want to be playing.
Totally.
It's incredible how many good games are out right now and then also coming out in like the next couple of weeks. Like, this feels like the new holiday season. Like, I'm more excited for games now than I was before Christmas.
Yeah, I feel like has that changed to you guys in recent years? I feel like the
Yeah.
February, March time, especially like January through March, a couple of years ago was like just nothing. Like post-holiday, pre-summer, it was just the wasteland of no games coming out. And now like March has become the hot, like, get them out now.
Yeah, February too. We had like XCOM and Stardew Valley in February last year. Like XCOM 2, that is. Like, there was a lot of good games that came out in February last year.
It's weird because like the holiday season, and it's not exactly true, but in my mind, it's quickly becoming the holiday season is the time when all of like the kind of not boring, but like routine standard franchises come out. So like in the holiday season, you have your Far Cry's, your Assassin's Creed's, your Call of Duty's, your Battlefields. But then you come into the new year, and that's when you're getting like a lot of the exciting things like, the new Legend of Zelda or like Nier Automata in a couple weeks, and that game has reviewed really strongly on consoles, so I'm excited for that on PC. Mass Effect Andromeda, like you're getting a lot of these sort of either reboots or really interesting fresh takes on games coming out in the early years. So this part of the year has been way more exciting for games.
Yeah, to put it simply, it's the games that publishers don't want to go up against Battlefield and Call of Duty.
Right, but they end up being more interesting games, I'm finding. At least this year, like there's so much choice right now with amazing things to play. Like I still want to play A Night in the Woods. Hollow Knight looks fantastic. I don't know when I'm going to find time for all of that in between the bigger stuff launching too.
Loot Rascals just came out yesterday, which is a game that we've had the developer on the show, and I'm like, I think is adorable and great if you like roguelikes. Yeah, there's just really good stuff coming out right now.
Yeah, it's too much. It's making me a bit angry. Like I'm a little bit upset because I'm like, I want to play it all.
I kind of feel like every month I'm like, man, there's so many good games coming out. Like it's easy to focus on like, oh, too many games are coming out. There's so much junk on Steam now. But like also this flip side of that is so many games are coming out. There's like constantly something amazing. You know, there's there's constantly some cool thing that you haven't seen or didn't know was coming that's like coming out. Like there's another really fun game that I played at PAX East last year. I'm about to go to PAX East. I'm leaving for PAX East literally tomorrow. But Flint Hook is this game that's coming out next month that is like another roguelike that I'm really excited about. It's a really good time for indie games.
Yeah, definitely.
What about one of you guys? What have you been playing?
Well, so this will surprise absolutely no one. I've been playing a lot of Overwatch, and we'll get to that later in the show.
No way.
But yeah, I never have anything to say during this because I really haven't played a lot else. But we did just come off of GDC, and while I didn't really play a ton there, I saw some pretty cool games. One that stuck out to me, there's a little indie game called, I think it's Cosmic Express. We talked about this one, Tom. It's like a little indie puzzler where you like pick up and drop off citizens with your little space train.
Yeah, I played that at GDC, yeah.
And it looked pretty cool. I didn't actually play it myself, but the impression I got from watching a bunch of different other people play, it looked pretty cool. So
it's an interesting puzzle game because it's by the same developer. Maybe somebody will know this out there. Same designer as a game called A Good Snowman is Hard to Build, which is like one of my favorite names for a game ever.
So good.
But it's this really Cosmic Express is an interesting game because it like the puzzles look really simple, but since you can't, it's all about like drawing a track. But since you can't overlap the track on itself, it's actually
it's like you draw a track like Snake almost.
Yeah.
But yeah, like when I first saw it, my immediate thought was it reminded me of that old, I guess single player board game Rush Hour. I think it was called Rush Hour.
It was called Rush Hour.
Get your red car through traffic by moving sliding cars back and forth, which they're totally different mechanics here. That is not the site, by the way.
That is not the site.
It's down a bit.
Oh yeah.
Game.
It's kind of a rough name to choose.
But yeah, it looks pretty cool. You like pick up and drop off people with your limited number of space cars. And from what I could tell, basically you have to red or orange aliens go to orange homes and purple aliens go to purple homes, and then the order you pick them up and drop them off matters. So just a simple little puzzle game that, like Tom said, looks really, really simple and easy, but actually can get quite complex.
Well, yeah,
it looks adorable.
Yeah, it is adorable, and that one comes out next week. So
right. Yeah,
it's coming right up as well. Real quickly, It's Ashton just subscribed. Thank you very much. And Buttface Jones resubscribed.
Buttface.
Also, T. Smittens. Always unsure how to break the letters in names like that. If it's TS Mittens or T Smittens, I don't know. But thank you very much for subscribing as well. Hey, Steven, it's your time to embarrass yourself. What have you been playing recently?
I'm just laughing about because I hope T.S. Mittens is this guy who writes cat fan fiction about T.S. Eliot. Anyway, time for me to embarrass myself because I am unabashedly, unashamedly. Can I talk about Zelda?
I don't think
it's all I've
can.
been playing.
I don't think you can.
Okay,
this is the PC gamer show, man.
I know.
That's all you've been playing though?
That's all I've been playing. I will say on Friday, if you're interested, check the website because I have an article going up about Zelda, but in the ways that it could really do some interesting things if other open world RPG makers were to borrow some design lessons. There's some good stuff there. It's a great game. So that's I mean, coming back from GDC, I went, picked up my friend's Wii U, got home, installed Zelda, and that's all I've done. So
Nice.
I've also been really busy, like just catching up on work. So it's just Zelda and work is my life right now, unfortunately. So I'm boring.
Well, I will agree that there are, without just directly talking about that game, I will say that it has made me look at like PC early access survival games differently and open world games differently. Like it does a lot of things well that those games do not do well. And I don't know. I think it's interesting to look at it just from like a game critiquing perspective. Like it does things differently in a way that I think is going to affect PC players because every developer that makes an open world game is going to look at Zelda, see its success, and we're going to see influences from that game on PC games in the next 2 years. I think that's almost definite. And you can not be a Nintendo fan, you can be a PC gamer for life, and I respect that. That's your choice. That's fine. But like, it's gonna affect you at some point or another because they have made a very, very successful game.
Yeah, and I will say it'll probably affect you in a good way. Like the things that Zelda does are really positive for those genres. So, as long as the people taking those lessons actually, execute them well, it could be a really good thing for just survival games and open world games in general. But that's it. That's the Zelda talk. We did it.
So actually, here's one more thing I actually did want to bring up, which I think is interesting about the Switch, not Zelda specifically, as it does relate to PC, is the controllers are just Bluetooth controllers that work on PC.
Yeah.
So like and it's actually like the individual tiny little Joy-Cons each work as an individual controller on PC, and then also the Pro controller if you want to shell out the ludicrous $70 for one of those.
I thought it was $80.
No, the Joy-Cons together are $80,
okay,
which is also just insanely expensive. But if you do shell out that money, you will get a PC pad as well, which I think is interesting because like the Joy-Con sideways aren't like, they're not great, but they aren't like bad controllers. And it's interesting to me that now like any of those like 8-player couch co-op games that I just never had a controller for.
Help you out a lot.
Yeah, because I only had like maybe 4 or 5 gamepads for like couch co-op games, and now I have like 7. I just got 2 extras really unexpectedly, which is
it was almost like the original vision that Nintendo had for the Wii U, like letting you play 8-player Smash by having all the various, like letting you take all of your Nintendo controllers and plug them in and let 8 people play Smash Brothers with a bunch of different controller schemes, but at least get them all in the same game.
I was joking that I was using, I was playing Castle Crashers, over winter break, and I was like joking that it was so silly that I was playing Castle Crashers on a PC with a Mad Catz 360 controller, a Steam controller, a like PS4 controller, and now I can say, and a Nintendo Joy-Con. And it's just like this horrible like Little Brothers amalgamation of controllers to use for games. It's like the punishment controllers.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I think that's cool. I like that they're just going to be, they're basically like whatchamacallit, they're just like direct input or X input basically. Like I think technically you need Joy to Key to map them, but now that Steam can use any X input controller, you can just map your Nintendo Switch gamepad with your Steam big picture mode. It's so strange.
Anytime that controllers and things like that just make being connected easier is just better overall. Like even if you might not want to use it, but the ability to be able to do it is so much better than struggling through the billions of hoops you have to jump through to get just a DualShock 3 working on PC.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Buttface Jones says PC gamers marveling at the wonder of 8-player multiplayer games. ... That's fair. That's fair. We have had that for a while. But I meant in a room together, guys. It's about togetherness or something.
Like us here now.
Except for Steven.
Oh.
Did you see me put my hand around the computer? He was a part of that, Tom.
What if a hand came in like off screen and touched me on the shoulder right when you did that? How creepy would that be? I was doing the wrong shoulder. This shoulder.
I'd tell you to say hi to your dad for me.
Yeah, he's just squatting in the corner, looking up proudly at me,
waiting for his moment.
God, that's weird.
All right, let's move on from the now playing though, and let's dig into some hardware stuff. I want to tell you, I'm proud of us for not talking about Nintendo very much, because you got to understand, like, we are diehard PC gamers. We love it. This PC is my first thing forever, but like, it's just on our brains right now, and it's exciting.
I mean,
a good
gamer
game is
in that
game.
word.
Yes, gamer is in that word. Yeah.
A good game is a good game regardless of the platform it's on.
That's true.
So you're welcome for shutting up, and let's talk about graphics cards.
Yeah, there's some cool stuff happening.
Yeah. So to recap from what we very briefly discussed last week, the GTX 1080 Ti was announced formally at $700.
Yeah, it's at $700, which
US.
means it pushes the price of the GTX 1080, which debuted at $600. It pushes that down to $500, which is pretty cool.
And then on top of that, AMD's Ryzen CPUs have just come out, right?
The new family of CPUs from AMD. Their Vega graphics cards are still forthcoming. We still don't know a ton of information about those. But on the CPU front, yeah, Ryzen is really cool. They're quite powerful. There's 3 available, and I probably will forget the names, but I'm pretty sure it is the Ryzen 7 1800X, 1700X, and then 1700. I could be wrong on those, but I'm pretty sure that is the 3 names. And all 3 of them, there's not a budget CPU in there. They all pretty much compete at the higher levels. So thank you, Tom, for pulling this up. I did get the names right. Go me.
You did.
Yeah, the 1800X is a $500 CPU. 1700X is a $400, and the 1700 is $329. So the main one that PC gamers will be looking at is probably the 1700X, which kind of competes with the Intel Core i7 7700, which would be the most recent Kaby Lake CPU. And yeah, the Ryzen CPUs, they do quite well. They perform, at least at CPU tasks, very well, and I believe better for the money than their Intel counterparts at the similar price point. However, according to all the testing that our hardware expert Jared has been doing, they do not actually do better at the one thing we care about most, which is gaming. So
it's interesting.
Yeah.
Like, it's interesting to, like, I know hardware in terms of gaming hardware, like, you know, and how it relates to gaming, but at a certain point, I'm too much of a novice to where I just think, like, oh, a CPU process is a CPU process, and if it's going to run Photoshop well, it'll run games well, and it'll run movies well, or yada, yada, yada. You know, it'll run Chrome consuming it well as well. Like, it's interesting to hear that it just, like, it doesn't perform in that specific area when you'd think a good CPU, or I'd think a good CPU is a good CPU.
Yeah, I think the main issue with it is, like, yeah, for CPU-oriented tasks, it does well, but for gaming, most games don't really rely on your CPU very much to begin with, which means that, I mean, that's why when we build our gaming PCs, like, yeah, you can throw in a high-end CPU, but the reason you're doing that is mostly so that it can also do non-gaming tasks. As far as the impact on actual gaming performance, the difference between like a current gen i5 and i7 is next to nothing. And a lot of times, especially on the lower end, you can even get by with a pretty bottom, I'll say bargain bin, not bottom of the barrel, but a pretty low-end CPU will, for the most part, it's not that it'll do great, but it won't bottleneck you, which is the main issue that the CPU plays into the gaming performance.
Can I ask a real quick question? What's the deal with the name? Is it like
with Ryzen?
Is it just like their new like label basically, or I never understand hardware marketing in terms of naming stuff.
Yeah,
and
hardware
so Ryzen,
naming is all over the place and constantly infuriating.
But Ryzen uses the new Zen architecture.
Yeah, so the Zen architecture,
which is why it's got it in that name.
Right. Until Ryzen was officially announced, we only knew it as AMD Zen or Zen architecture. And yeah, that's just their branding, I guess. I'm trying to remember. Like, I guess before there was the like AMD. So I mean, very much just like there's Radeon and there's GeForce and all this stuff. It's just a name. But yeah, the official spec names for the Ryzen cards, I believe, are still on the RX designation, which is in line with the previous gen Ryzen cards or something. Most of the time we use Intel cards or CPUs because most of the time they've been better in this case. I don't want to outright call them out there, but it's just, yeah, Ryzen gives a lot of opportunity, and it definitely shakes up the space a lot. And more than anything, I'm interested in how Intel responds, and will it drive prices down on some cards or CPUs.
At the same time, because NVIDIA doesn't let AMD ever have any sort of moment ever, they, at the exact same time Ryzen got announced, or released, excuse me, NVIDIA announces the 1080 Ti.
Right.
And
the 1080 Ti is, for our purposes, the thing that's really interesting and most applicable here, which... So the 1080 Ti basically gives us...
Real quick, before we jump into that, there was a moment where Jared was saying that it wasn't, like, there wasn't even going to be a Ti, right? Like, it was almost not even a thing, according to rumors.
Yeah, there was a lot of rumors flying around, and we weren't really sure what was going to end up happening with the 1080 Ti. Originally, 6 months or 8 months ago, the only real idea we had that there was going to be a 1080 Ti was, well, there was a 980 Ti that delivered basically the previous generation Titan X performance at slightly more than the 980's price point. So we were like, well, they're probably going to do that again with the 1080 as there is a new Titan X card. So there will probably, in 6 months or so from the release of the 1080 series, or the 10 series, they'll probably just do that again. And that was the original speculation. But then numbers were flown around. There was rumors that we weren't sure if they were leaks or just people going on this speculation. But especially to do with the 1080 cards, just the whole 10 series of cards has performed very, very well and was a big jump in performance from the 9 series, that it seemed like maybe a 1080 Ti wasn't even really necessary. But sure enough, it was indeed announced.
The GPU cycle marches.
It does indeed
on.
march on.
Dude, I'm not going to lie. GPUs are exhausting.
They can be, especially when you get into dealing with all of the aftermarket third-party designations, which for the most part, at least in our build guides, we're like, there are differences, but there also aren't differences, and the best one to buy is usually the cheapest one you can find at the time because deals and sales fluctuate so much.
Yeah.
And finding this one on sale that may perform the tiniest percentile less than this one the price to performance difference is certainly not worth the potentially much larger price you're paying.
So speaking of the price to performance, because that's one of my favorite things that Jared has done, is he literally equates like the frames a game gets on or a card will achieve to how much that card then costs, and like give you like a frames per dollar sort of breakdown, which is kind of like awesome. I've never seen that really before. And I really like it.
He takes the frame rates across like a 15 game average, and of pretty much all the cards that he has tested, and then averages it out to determine which cards perform better. And as expected, back then the 1080 was the best performing card. However, it was actually one of the worst bang for your buck GPUs, as the 1070 was much better for a top-end GPU. It got you much more for the money, and the price difference between the 1070 and the 1080 it's like a $200 price difference, which I guess that was like a 33% price increase. No, I don't know. Can't do percentages off the top of my head. Bottom line, it was a large price increase for a not that much performance bump. It is a performance bump, but was it really worth it?
Right.
And then as far as pure bang for your buck, the 1060 3 gigabyte performs actually like best FPS per dollar, shortly followed by the RX 470 and 460.
Yeah, we can pull up this graph and hopefully give people a look at that. But yeah, the 1060 is like like you said, close to the RX 470. It's like actually one of the best.
Yeah, but this one is like pure performance per dollar. So it depends on if you want like pure value, or there's still a point when you want a more powerful card. And so that's why the 1070 was our overall recommendation, as it is getting you real good performance, but also at a great value. You can see the 1080 in terms of price per value is way down the list.
But that doesn't necessarily mean it's a worse card.
Certainly, yeah. It's like purely, by all accounts, it is a better card. It performs better across the board. It just not for the money. But yeah, what's really interesting about the 1080 Ti coming out now is, so this chart and all of these numbers that Jared put together in this article was all compiled back when the 10 series first was launched. And those prices have gone down significantly, especially when you take into account, I don't really like to account one-off deals, but sort of like there gets to be a point where you can always find a card at this price point.
Right.
It's like the regularly available at price point, which these cards have definitely shifted down to a new level. And with the 1080 Ti coming out at the top, that means everything else kind of gets pushed down, which means that when you take those numbers that the GPU numbers of how they performed haven't changed. If anything, they've actually gotten a little bit better with driver updates and game optimizations and things like that. When you take those numbers and compare them to a lower price, the bang for your buck figures shift. So in the next days or weeks, we're looking to do an update to that article with the new prices and performance numbers in there.
That'll be interesting to see shift, because a straight performance test is almost always gonna straight performance test is gonna stay the same in terms of ordering. It's just gonna get new additions.
Right.
Whereas I like the idea that the 1060 is the best card for your money, but then a year later it's probably not, and so that's just a really interesting. It's a bunch more like. I sound like I'm tooting our own horn here, but to be clear, I didn't have anything to do with that. That was Jared and our hardware team being amazing, and it's a much more understandable way to look at graphics card purchases, for me at least.
I mean, when the 10 series came out, that was a big question. Was with the 10 series, you were getting performance levels of the 9 series cards. Basically, you could think this generation's the 980 performed the same as like the 1080, the 960 performed, or the 1060 performed the same as like the 970. Like there was sort of an incremental step there between generations and steps within the generation. And so, yeah, there were a lot of questions of like, if I'm buying a new card today, am I better buying a mid-tier of the new generation or a top tier of the old generation? And so having those numbers really broke it down.
So the thing, though, and I've complained about this on the show so many times. I've complained about this when the RX 480 first came out. I complained about this when I think the 1070 came out. I think I might have even complained about it when the 970 came out. Like, this graphics card, the 1080 Ti, when does it officially come out? And when in God's name will it ever show up on any available shopping cart? You know, like this is just what happens with GPUs, and I've complained about it before, and it drives me nuts. Is like release dates don't mean anything to graphics cards.
The answer is I don't know, and it sucks, basically. The official launch date, I think, is either end of this week or sometime next week. But as you said, they put up pre-orders, I think, late last week, and the pre-orders weren't even really available to pre-order. It was like sign up for a list to be notified when available, something along those lines, because the pre-orders that were available instantly sold out. So, yeah, we went through the same thing when the 1080 and 1070 came out. They were just not available. The one thing that will be mostly available is the Founders Edition cards, which is the made by NVIDIA.
Their fancy fancy case thing.
Yeah, with the blower style cooler, and those generally will be available, or at least will be more available or closer to widely available. But those are a bit more expensive, and it's the third party ones, the aftermarket with all the aftermarket coolers that come in at a lower price point, and so if you want one of those, you kind of just have to keep checking and looking and hopefully find one.
Steven, I'm curious.
Yeah.
How often do you upgrade your graphics card generally?
What's
your
probably
plan?
Every 3 years.
Okay, that's probably what I do too.
Yeah, and I almost always just go for the 70 series of NVIDIA cards, because that I found has time and time again been that perfect sweet spot of you're still getting a powerful card, but you're not paying out the nose for it, and it's more powerful than a 60 series.
Yeah.
Yeah, in my experience, if you're going for a 2 to 3 year turnaround cycle, the 1070 or the 70 series is it hits that sweet spot. Whereas going for the top end, you're kind of better off if you first off, you have to accept that you're going to be spending money and you're just paying for the premium. But once you get past that, your best way to go through that kind of cycle is buy the top end, and then almost as soon as the new one comes out, you resell yours and buy the new one. And when you're doing it that way, the turnover price is not quite as bad.
See, I my favorite thing to do with upgrading a computer is to slowly upgrade it piece by piece, and then just eventually one day I have a second computer, right?
The PCest ship of computers.
Yeah, essentially, yes. Almost exactly. I have a case right now in my garage that is just a case, a motherboard, and a GPU. Oh, and a single stick of RAM, and a power supply, and that's it. And it's just sitting there waiting for a processor and a little bit more RAM and an OS and a monitor, basically. It's just waiting for a couple more things, and then oh look, I'll have a second computer.
It's a new thing.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. I was just talking about this in the chat, but I'm at like the point now where I want to upgrade my CPU, but that also requires getting a new motherboard. And so that's like that feels to me like a more significant upgrade than getting a new graphics card, because the cost of those two combined can add up to more than a 70.
Yeah, I feel like the new motherboard, new CPU is kind of the moment when you can say this is a new PC. Like even if you're using an old case or old graphics card or whatever, like
exactly
the new motherboard CPU is like, all right, this is a new guy.
Well,
like you're pulling out the spine of the system essentially.
I talked about that too, where I wanted to upgrade my RAM to DDR4, but to do that I need a new motherboard, and to do that I need I wanted to upgrade my CPU, and to upgrade my CPU I needed a new motherboard, but if I needed a new motherboard I needed new RAM, and if I needed new RAM,
right.
like it was just this thing where it was like, I'm at the point with my PC where if I want to upgrade like basically any one thing that's not like the graphics card.
Yeah, either
like,
graphics card or like storage or something.
Yeah, if I want to upgrade either of those right now, I have, probably $600 worth of upgrades to do all at once, which is a little bit more stressful. Like, I mean, to be clear, like I use a fancy ass PC at work, right? That Wes built me actually like a year ago or something like that, and we use the LPC. Like we use these high end machines, but like at home we're still just like you guys, using our rigs. I still use a PS2 keyboard from 8 years ago that I love dearly, and
nice.
Y'all can hate all you want.
Tom's keyboard still uses serial connections.
Yep. No. I think it's interesting because it's almost like when a 1080 Ti comes out, for the average gamer, you just you kind of have to pretend it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Right? Like for me, like I love that the 1080 Ti is going to be a thing, and it's going to kind of like let people who want to and who can afford it do high-end stuff, but also like I'm never going to have that card in my system at home like ever, like it's just not like but it's cool to see PC gaming continue to push it, to see it just like continue to go farther.
Yeah. The one thing that we haven't talked about the 1080 Ti, not to stay on this too long, but for those of you who are pursuing that top tier level, the one really cool thing that the 1080 Ti does is it finally really like makes 4K gaming a reasonable thing to do. Because previously, like even with the 1080, regular 1080 with a single card, you can run a game in 4K, but like you're not going to get 60 FPS, at least not in like everything.
Yeah.
To like consistently hit 4K 60 FPS, you really needed either two 1080s, which SLI is like a nightmare to deal with, or you needed like a Titan X. Or as we have in the LPC, two Titan X's.
Because,
why not?
Yeah. Speaking of pushing the frontier.
Yeah. And yeah, like with the 1080 Ti, we're finally at a point where like a single card configuration that's not a $1,200 card can do 4K 60 FPS. And that's pretty cool.
So before we move on, Steven, go ahead.
I was going to say, can it do 4K 60 FPS and like high to ultra graphics across like a modern game?
That's what I mean. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because for a long time it always felt like you could choose only two of those. You could do 4K at 60 FPS on medium to low, or one of the other two combinations. So that's cool.
Yeah, which is like if you're running in 4K, like or if you're running on like low to medium graphics, like what's the point of going to 4K? It's kind of like worse. Which is, I mean, this is why for a long time we've said and championed like it's much, much better to aim for like 1440p at 144 FPS is like a much more attainable and better looking sweet spot than trying to shoot for 4K at 60 plus FPS.
Yeah, my monitor at home, my main monitor is 1080 72 hertz. So like, and I like that because I think it looks, it's an IPS monitor, so it looks nice,
looks
and
great.
that's that higher frame rate is a little bit more important to me than like trying to hit 1440 or 4K, especially because when you get a 4K monitor, I don't know, people don't think about this, but holy crap, I hate using 4K monitors for anything that's not games.
The
text is just tiny.
Even on the LPC where we have like a 32-inch monitor, which is getting to the point where it's big enough that you can kind of deal with it, but it's still, everything is so small, and like to make it usable, you have to up the render scale, and at that point you're like defeating the purpose of running in 4K. So
yeah. So before we move on, we are gonna take questions at the end, but there is one good question right now from Colin R80 who asked where is it? Oh God, it went away. Oh no. Asking if VR was going to be pushing, is VR pushing graphics cards faster? Which I think is an interesting question to ask in this graphics card section, mainly because I think the answer is actually no. Pretty much because, and maybe it is, maybe I'm wrong because I'm not a graphics card maker, and obviously better graphics cards is going to mean better VR games, but the interesting thing that's happening right now is every VR game that's being developed right now is being targeted towards essentially a 970, a GTX 970, right? And that's not because they want worse graphics, it's because they need to be making sure that the baseline can run the game. And everyone at this baseline can run the game in VR. And so, like, at least right now, in terms of what we're seeing on a user end, maybe it's happening in the background, but at a user end, if you have a 970 graphics card, there is currently no reason to go higher for VR. Like, it'll maybe do better in some games like Elite, you know, you'll be able to crank up. They're one of the few VR games that allows you to crank up graphics past like the minimum. But for most VR games, if you have like a 970 or later graphics card, like you don't need anything higher. A 1080 Ti is not going to get you better VR performance than, you know, a 970 or a 980. Yeah,
like to that end, pretty much all of the laptops that are being marketed these days, if it has a 10 series card in it, especially if it's like a 1060 or higher, they're marketed as VR ready laptops. Right. Because it can, like the 10 series of NVIDIA GPUs like can handle VR and that they can do it. And so to answer the question, VR, no, but what probably or maybe will is monitor tech. Because up until CES this year, you could get, you kind of basically had to trade off either 4K or a high refresh rate of 120 or 144 hertz. You could get a 4K monitor, but it would be only at 60 hertz refresh rate, or you could go for a 1440 or a 1080 monitor, but you could hit those much higher refresh rates. And at CES, they finally announced or showed off, I don't think it's out yet, but showed off a 4K monitor with 120 hertz. And so basically what several years ago people were trying, aim, there was a time when like 1080 60 was like the pinnacle of PC gaming. Yeah. And now we consider that like our baseline, which means like there will be a time in the future when like 1440 60 will be our baseline, and we're like anything below that is just not worth playing, and that like and that like 4K 60 will be what we shoot for, or 4K 120. And so
what a time to be alive.
Yeah, basically like as the monitor tech gets better and better and can support these higher things, like basically like I don't like playing at 4K because I would rather, as you said, like I would rather have that higher frame rate. That matters to me more than more pixels. But if I can have both, then why not?
Yeah, and real quick just to cap that off, Chris86 mentioned that Elite and Project Cards really don't like the 970. I've had pretty good performance on Elite with a 970 at home. But yeah, I imagine some of those games that are available outside of VR can take better advantage of those of better cards than something that is built for VR. But let's jump along. Let's talk about some Overwatch, because there is some exciting stuff.
There's a lot going on.
Yeah, just to reiterate, anybody who wants more of our coverage of Ryzen or the GTX, you can go to pcgamer.com/hardware, and all of our coverage is there. Jared has been putting out some great benchmarks, some great testings of those things, and we're going to get more of that coverage as we go forward. Yeah. But let's talk about Overwatch. You were mentioning this morning that it's like ridiculously busy time for this game
There's
right
a
now.
lot happening. To the biggest thing is the new hero, Orisa, was announced like last week. In the middle of GDC, Orisa was announced. She's currently playable on the PTR. She'd been being teased for like a week or two previous to that. And so that's the big. We'll just do them one at a time. So Orisa, she's a new tank hero. She was it's an Omnic hero, but unlike the other Overwatch heroes, to give a little lore of the character, Orisa was built by Effie Oladele, or Oladele, I don't know how to pronounce her last name, an 11-year-old robotics genius from Nimbani. And so here we have Orisa up here. She is a tank. She's a quadrupedal robotic protector, basically.
It's like a Robo Centaur thing.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool.
But yeah, so she was built by Effie, and so the robot, Orisa herself, is only a month old. So the character is very much like learning about the world, about herself, trying to find her place in the world, in life.
Whoa, dude.
As like
Getting deep.
a baby protector person. But in terms of her actual abilities, she's a tank. She has only 400 health, so the same as Zarya. However, 200 of that health is armor, so that makes her a little bit more tanky than Zarya. But her health does not regen, of course. She also has her primary weapon, Fusion Driver, is like a long-range autocannon. It's pretty powerful. It feels a lot like, kind of like Bastion's new gun when he's in turret. Not quite as powerful as that, but it does a lot of damage. It's decent spread, but you can just unload on it, and it has like 150. It had 200 ammo. They've actually just scaled that back to 150 on the PTR currently. Possibly some more tweaks along the way. Primary ability, Fortify. For 4 seconds, she takes 50% less damage and is immune to crowd control effects, which is very powerful in terms of staying alive through anything from a Junkrat trap or a Earth Shatter, anything like that. Also, like Reinhardt's charge, if he charges into Orisa while she has Fortify active, he just straight up hits her and bounces. Reinhardt actually takes damage when he hits her. So here's the Fortify going off. And her next ability is Halt, which is pretty cool. It's basically a mini Graviton Surge. It's on a decently long cooldown, like 12 or 14 seconds. And the gravity effect only happens for a second, unlike Zarya's, which is... So Zarya's Graviton Surge is meant much more for like setting up ultimates and taking out the whole team at once, whereas Orisa's, it's kind of like a reverse boop. It's used to get people out of position. Instead of pushing them somewhere like Lucio's boop or Pharah's concussive blast.
Boop isn't actually the name of the ability, is it?
No.
Is that a technical term?
I have no idea what that ability is actually called.
We're looking it up.
It is, I think it's like shockwave, soundwave.
Yeah, something like that, but that kills me calling it a boop.
It's not even listed.
It's not
there.
even listed.
It's
is
just
literally not even listed. It's
It
just
is
Sonic
the
Amplifier.
alt fire on his Sonic Amplifier.
Yeah. So it is called
It's
Boop.
called the Boop.
You heard
yeah.
it here first, people.
So unlike the Boop or Pharah's concussive blast, which knocks people back, Halt sucks people in, which can be used. We basically haven't even seen all of the cool ways it's going to be used yet. She's still very new, only playable on the PTR, so we haven't gotten a lot of high-level testing in. But I have seen a GIF of somebody using Halt to lift up a Reinhardt and then earth-shattering your teammate Reinhardt, doing an earth shatter underneath the now gap in between the Reinhardt shield and the ground, hitting the team. So it's a pretty cool thing to combo.
Real quick, thank you. What's her ultimate, right?
And then finally her ult is, I forgot what it's called, Overdrive. And she basically throws down this power generator drum thing. It is a destroyable item, but it grants 50% damage boost, so the same amount of damage boost as Anna's nano boost to all allies within a 25-yard radius, within line of sight, which is really powerful. If anybody's been on the receiving end of, a nano-boosted Genji or Reinhardt, they know how powerful that plus 50% damage increase can be. And so having that hit your whole team is going to be really effective for either locking down and defending a point or just giving your team that extra boost to get through a choke or take a point. Boopst.
I'll shut up. So Steven is not amused.
I'm very amused, actually.
So thank you for that whatchamacallit, that recap of her abilities. Excuse me, the word totally slipped my mind. Real quickly, Peas Rice just subscribed and Joe Smith just subscribed, so thank you very much to both of you guys. So the interesting thing, the first thing I want to dig into with this character is actually how she looks.
Yes.
Or it looks. I don't know what
she is. Yeah, okay. Bastion is genderless, however, other Omnics have gender. So
there you go.
Yeah, like Zenyatta is a male Omnic, Orisa is a female Omnic.
All right. Well, the interesting thing, or the thing I want to talk about first, and I'll pull up her skins actually on our site, is the way she looks. Like the actual design of the character is like, to me, like weirdly off-putting. Like, I'm not a huge fan of the character design. I like the, helmet thing. She's got this, the face mask with the horns. I think that's cool. But the whole rest of the character feels, very unlike an Overwatch character to me. It feels sort of, weirdly disjointed. I don't know. Maybe I'm alone on that, but...
No, I totally agree with you.
Yeah, so a lot of her, both in terms of the lore of the character itself and what it ended up looking like, so for the lore, Orisa was built by Effie using the chassis of a OR-15 defense bot, which, sort of like Bastion, was a line of robots, which means the general chassis of her there is kind of generic looking. And so maybe that has something to do with what's off-putting. Like she feels like a background character almost, which is what you see here. But then the extra flair added is what's coming from Effie, who's a Numbani native. This South African flair basically.
Yeah, and it just feels like, I don't know. They told me, or they said that, they told me, excuse me. They said that she originally started as like a rhino kind of character, right? Which explains the horns and explains the quadrupedal. And what this character ended up feeling like to me, and you guys are welcome to disagree if you'd like, it ended up feeling a lot like what the original sketch of what Genji was supposed to look like. They showed this off like a year ago or something at BlizzCon, where Genji and Hanzo were originally the same character. They were originally one character that was this very, it looked like a mix of them. It had a sword. Here, let me see if I can't find the image. They had a sword and a bow. They were kind of robotic, but also had these cloth, bits on it. Here's the original. It looked like both of them, It looked like mashed up into one. And then they realized that this character was too busy and had too much going on, and they split the sword and the robot into one character and the bow and the kind of more traditional into another character. And the result is that you get these two kind of more pure ideas, right? Whereas the first one was like a couple ideas, it felt like. And or at least to me, Orisa feels like what that original Genji or original Hanzo or Genji or whatever concept felt like.
Genzo.
Yeah,
Hanji.
Where it's like there's just
there's
just a few too many things going on, and it doesn't quite feel isolated down to what it could be. I don't know.
No, she doesn't look cohesive to me. The fact that she's got these, I love sort of her trim, some of her stylings, her helmet and stuff like that. But I find her a really drab character. She's not visually as exciting, nearly as exciting as someone like Sombra or even Anna. I thought looked really cool.
Yeah.
Whereas Orisa just kind of,
There's definitely a bit of kind of genericness to that, just gray body. But I will say some of her skins look pretty cool. Even just like a recolor to the general chassis, like adds a lot of flair. Like that green one there in the middle. Like I feel like if that had been the baseline Orisa, like how would you feel about that one, Tom? If it was just this.
I don't know. I feel better about it. I think maybe like with a few splashes of more yellow or something, but like because the recolors tend to go very heavy into one color.
Sure.
But yeah, I feel like you're right in saying that the maybe it is just like the desert brown that is like super whatever to me. It just looks very generic military.
Yeah.
I love this one skin down here that looks like basically a kaiju.
Oh yeah, this one's great.
With these bug the like rhino beetle horn and stuff. I think that one's really, really cool.
Her baseline legendary skins are definitely, I think, improve on the character, and I'm really excited to see what they do in the future with event skins and other potential legendaries. So
yeah,
there's a lot to work with.
Yeah, she gives me this vibe, and also because I think maybe Bo, you'll disagree, but I feel like Orisa is very clearly a reactionary hero in the sense that like they had this huge gap, and so they were like, let's design a hero that fills this gap and gives a bit more choice, so not every team is picking Reinhardt. And I think part of just her character design and her ability to design, like there's things that are exciting about her on a technical level, but compared to like Anna, which is like it's a sniping healer, and like Sombra, which is she can go invisible and hack stuff. Orisa feels like she doesn't have that same kind of hook. It's just like, oh, she's just kind of like Reinhardt, but
she's got a shield
different.
like Reinhardt and a gun like this and a this.
Yeah,
she's
got the gravitron bomb, and like she just sort of feels pieced together from different things.
Yeah.
And I mean, you can see that in the way she looks. She feels pieced together from different things, and just therefore isn't as exciting as like a some of their older hero releases.
I mean, I think that'll be a big challenge for Blizzard going forward is in designing these characters, because we've got now a cast of 24 characters in Overwatch, and all of them fit a lot of the niches of they do this one thing, they do it really well. And when you look at games that have a character cast much larger than that, with 50 or 100 playable characters or whatever, in those situations you definitely get to the point where it's like, okay, this guy has this type of gun and this type of ability, and then this one is like that guy's gun and her primary, and they're sort of just like a mix and match of the different abilities. And so, a big challenge for Blizzard will be creating these characters that feel unique and like they have their own place.
Yeah.
Or maybe they'll just continue making characters that are kind of a mashup of others, just to give us more variety of when you want this ability, but with that.
Not 2 legs or 4 legs, but 3 legs.
Hey-oh. Or a ball. Imagine like the dwarven or from Skyrim. Never mind, I'm way off.
Or like BB-8.
BB-8 style ball. Yeah.
I'm talking about the Centurions from Skyrim.
Yeah,
the Dwemer Centurions. That's what I was trying to think of.
That'd be cool. I'd be into that.
Yeah.
I'd probably be like, it's disjointed and it doesn't look thought out, but
The funny thing is, I'm saying this in my head, and I'm like, these heroes are also like free. Like I think Overwatch clearly exists in a multiplayer space where they could charge for these heroes, and people would be okay with it because that's kind of the landscape. Like you look at Rainbow Six Siege or something, but they're giving them for free. So there was a part of me where I was like, am I being like too critical by like picking apart the art stuff on this free hero? Or is it just the fact that like, hey, it's more free content and it fills a very useful practical gap in the meta?
Dude, I still am reflecting on the fact that a year ago, and I was just thinking about this the other day. A year ago, when did Overwatch come out? May 24th. Yeah. So a year ago, the conversation around Overwatch was, which now the like basically biggest new game in the last like few years, right? Like you can still say League and CS:GO and Dota are bigger games. That's totally fair, 100% fair to say. But like one of the biggest games in the world, Overwatch. A year ago, the conversation was, I don't know, man. $60, really? It's like $40 if you want the base version. I don't know if that's enough. Like, are they really gonna support it? Like that? I don't know. And like less than a year later, they've like been just cramming events down our throat and like are onto their third hero. And like you gotta hand it to Blizzard. You can hate Blizzard all you want. You can disagree with their design choices. You can disagree with all that stuff. Whatever. But like they've been supporting this game for free.
Yeah.
Amazingly. Like they are really, really doing a good job just like full-heartedly supporting adding new modes, adding new features, improving ranked play. Like it's really kind of amazing to think how much they've done in a year to the point where we've completely forgot about the conversation of like, God, I don't even know. I thought this game should really be free to play. Like that's not even like you can't even imagine Overwatch being free to play now. It would be like that's like ludicrous, them charging for those heroes. The top two immediately two comments. I do like Blizzard and I do hate Blizzard. So our chat is a diverse representation of the internet right now.
So yeah, that's Orisa. There's a lot more going on in the meta. There's nerfs coming into Ana on the PTR. The big Bastion changes just went live. I don't want to go too far in depth for our non-Overwatch listeners and watchers. I don't want to bore them too much. But long story short, there's a lot happening, but Orisa's the big thing. And yeah, as we mentioned at the top of the show, she's on the PTR now, but will likely be there for another couple weeks as they test her out and possibly tweak her abilities and everything a bit more. As I said, her gun has already lost 50 ammo, so maybe we'll see more health or less health or who knows? You know, cooldowns change, numbers. There's so many numbers that Blizzard could tweak.
I really quickly love, I hate to call out somebody specifically in the chat because, you know, you can make fun of us all you want, but somebody's like, sounds like he was sponsored by Blizzard. Literally, we just spent 10 minutes talking about how much we hated the character they designed. And I say, like, man, you got to hand it to them. They did a good job of updating. And
Blizzard's
you're like,
money's
oh,
gone
that's
to
paid.
waste.
Yeah, like, come on. But not the one thing I do want to talk about with Orisa's abilities also specifically is I asked this question in the office a while back last week when they first announced her, which is, do you guys feel like their philosophy with ultimates has changed at all? Because the ultimates that are in the base game are like these very big, huge moment things where it's like, boom, you press this button and you win the game, right? Like, or a lot of them are. A lot of them are those big moments. Not, I won't say all, but like the vast majority. And then since launch, the three characters that we've gotten are two of their ultimates, Ana and Orisa, are just like
Support
buffs.
their buffs.
They're just like click a button and like some people get stronger, which is like not a bad ultimate. I'm not saying it's weak or anything. I'm just saying it's like not showy and not flashy. And then the other one has been Sombra's ult, which maybe this is just because she hasn't really impacted the meta at all, but like, you know, you press a button and like a big thing happens, but no one dies and everyone is still shooting you.
Yeah.
And so it's like not as big of a moment as something like Graviton Surge or like Pharah's Rocket Barrage. It's just like a kind of thing happened. And I'm wondering if Blizzard if that's just kind of what they've wanted to add, right? And that's just like not a specific design philosophy change, or if they are actively pulling away from those big like game-changing ultimates.
I'm not Blizzard, so I don't know what their actual thought process is, but from what we've seen, yes, it does seem like it has pulled away a bit. You know, the whole point of the play of the game system was designed to show off these big flashy moments, and ultimates were also designed to give you those feelings of doing something that was really awesome. But yeah, in terms of the actual gameplay, you know, ults are a big part of an Overwatch match, and games are won and lost on managing ultimates and using them at the right time as they can, you know, push the tide of a battle one way or the other. But yeah, to that end, you know, in a little bit to what you said though, like Ana and Orisa are support characters or tank, tanks. Ana is a support, and a tank is like not an in-your-face role, whereas, Sombra is an offense character. So that's what I'm trying to say, is that the big in-your-face moments, Dragon Blade, Dragon Strike, the dragons or wolves, whatever they are, from Hanzo, Rocket Barrage, all of these, those are coming from your offensive characters, the ones who are doing the damage and stuff, whereas it feels a bit weird to have it would be weird if a support character like all of a sudden has an ability that can just like wipe 2 people or something. It makes sense for Tracer to have Pulse Bomb. She blinks in, drops it off, and gets out and like gets some kills.
So maybe it's just a matter of the order they've decided to release these characters, as Steven put it, the gaps they've decided to fill in the roster.
Yeah, and because like I would say that in terms of like so Sombra is an offensive character, and her ability, her ult, EMP, it doesn't seem super useful, but then like also Graviton Surge on its own doesn't seem super useful, but when comboed, it can be extremely powerful. Like EMP can be used to just wipe your enemy team's shields for a minute, and comboed with an Earth Shatter or with a Dragon, with other ults or with your teammate can be extremely powerful.
Yeah.
However, having said all of that, I was reading a thread this morning about people basically questioning, can Orisa really replace Reinhardt in the meta? And the problem with Reinhardt is his shield is so powerful, both for what it can do, but also for defending against other Reinhardts, because Earth Shatter is so powerful. And I have a feeling that if Blizzard was designing Reinhardt today, they would probably not give him Earth Shatter. It would be a significantly less powerful move. Because it is just so powerful. It knocks out the other team, stuns them for several seconds. Like, again, on its own. That's the thing, is even Earth Shatter is so powerful that if you hit multiple people in it, even when you're by yourself as Reinhardt, like, you can wipe several people. Whereas, like, Graviton, if you hit 3 people in it, unless you're at, like, super high charge and they're really squishy, like, you're not going to get... You might get 1 kill on your own, but you're probably not going to wipe the team. Graviton needs to be comboed. Earth Shatter is really, really powerful even on its own, and it's insane when comboed. So I would say that putting an ability that strong in the hands of a character that is already so critical to team comps, being the strongest main tank with the strongest shield, they would probably not do that. They would probably give him much more of a setup or a buff type ability. Graviton is very powerful, but it's a setup ability.
Yeah.
Earth Shatter is just so amazing.
It'd be interesting to see Overwatch, and I don't think Blizzard's actually going to do this, but it would be interesting to see Blizzard just like say, all right, year 2, here's everything we learned, flip a switch, and just like every character changes.
That would
in,
be
like,
crazy.
Significant ways.
I highly doubt they would do that, but that would be crazy.
But like it seems to me like this is the type of game where you really can't know the balance for sure until you've had millions of people playing it for a year.
And I mean that's what they've done with some characters, like, Symmetra got a significant change that has made her significantly more viable, and that involved giving her a second ult. And that was really cool. But again, her second ult was a support ability. It's the shield generator, which, in certain contexts is extremely powerful, but on its own, it's a little boring. You're not going to get play of the game with a shield generator. You might get it with her crazy gun, but not
That's
with
the
the shield
challenge.
generator.
Bo has issued the challenge. If you guys can provide us with a highlight clip of Symmetra getting play of the game with a shield generator placement, we will send you a game code. I am not kidding about that. Tom@pcgamer.com. Email me if you have that, and it is not fake.
I don't think it even could, because there's nothing on it that like scores.
Someone will do it, man. Someone will do it.
The challenge, the gauntlet has been thrown.
But let's move on and actually open it up to you guys. Let's take your questions from Twitch chat. If you have any questions for us about anything, tag us with @PCGamer in the Twitch chat, and we will check your questions. Twitch subscribers, we love you very much, and we will try to get to your questions first if we can. As always, you can ask us about Overwatch or hardware or anything you want this week.
But not Zelda.
Or not Zelda. Definitely don't ask Steven about that. No. Anything you guys want to talk about.
Don't tempt me.
In PC gaming land, please let us know, and we will check it out. Right off the bat, Buttface Jones asks, when will NVIDIA stop counting up and do the Battlefield 1/Doom thing and just call the next card the GeForce? That's a really good question. I thought it was actually going to be this series. I didn't think they'd go 10. I think that's weird, and honestly, from like a branding marketing standpoint, calling your 4K card the 1080 is like weird.
Oh yeah, that's super weird.
Right? Like it's just like, it's kind of weird mixed messages. So I thought they would have done it already, and I think that means they're never going to do it.
I really hope that they do not do it, because it is thoroughly frustrating trying to figure out what generation AMD card you have when you go from like, at one point there were 4 numbers, and then there were 3 numbers, and then there was like the R7, R8, R9, and then RX, which I guess is R10. And it's just so... It's really hard to follow what generation AMD card you have versus the NVIDIA series. Like, there's the 780 and 770 and 760, and then the 8. Was there an 880? I feel like there wasn't. I think it skipped from 780 to 980.
I don't know. There was no 880.
Yeah, there was no 880.
It was 700 to 900. So this is the thing, is they've had 2 opportunities, right? They had an opportunity where when they went from 700 to 900, they like had a big jump in technology. They changed the way that they were making chips, and they like could have rebranded, and they didn't. And then they had 980 to 1080, was they were switching from 3 digits to 4 digits, and they could have rebranded, and they didn't. So I think it's unlikely that they're going to.
I really like it. I want the next one to be the 1180, the 1170. Like, I know that's basically 1 generation or 1 year newer, and I would expect, this generation's or next generation's 1180 to perform like the 1080 Ti, the 1170 to perform like the 1080, and on down, like, with some caveats in there, but it's a useful way to brand your stuff. Don't get me started on monitor branding. Those are the worst.
That one is naming monitor names are terrible.
Oh my god, yeah.
TVs
too.
Real quick, there was a moment when I was like, I actually made a spreadsheet of like all the different monitors that we care about, and like when they came out and when they were coming out, and like I had a moment where, for maybe just one, might have been just for like Asus or for Acer, I can't remember which one, but I was like, I felt like I could see the matrix. I was like, okay, the P means this, and the number means this, and the like I could see it.
That's incredible.
This meant G-Sync, this meant FreeSync, this meant it was like high frame rate, this meant it was this was the screen size. Like I could see. And then that was that one day, and now
I remember I got really excited when I realized that there is a number in there that tells you the actual screen size, and that's all I could figure out. But I was real excited when I clued into that. I was like, oh, the 32 means it's the 32-inch. Genius.
Except sometimes they lie to you. Like I have one. My monitor is technically 23.8. But it actually says 24 in the code thing.
Close enough.
I guess. Varendil asks a very good question. Says, in honor of International Women's Day, it is International Women's Day if people didn't know that, is the games industry doing enough to be inclusive in the content it creates yet? E.g., are too many games still sexualizing the female form too much? That's a really good question. It's one that is... could be an entire podcast topic. Like, it is a really, really big, nuanced topic that I don't want to do a disservice to, especially as 3 dudes sitting up here. Like, to be honest, like, it's a tricky subject for us to talk about. What I will say is, no, right? Like, I think a lot of mediums are still like have a lot more to do in that regard, including games. I will say I'm optimistic. Like, I think that games have gotten a lot better in recent years with that stuff, and I'm I'm glad it's more of a conversation. Like, it's a conversation we should be having in games if we want to treat games as like a medium we all love that we want to see grow. Like, we should be having that conversation even if we don't like it and even if we don't want to have it. Like, it's just good to have the conversation, because you know what? Like, even if we don't get anything settled in our conversation, it's something that another game designer will say, oh, you know, maybe I can just do this cuz, you know, and like it does help to just talk about it.
Mm-hmm. And to echo that sentiment, like, yeah, there is a lot more work to be done. Games have come a decent ways in recent years. Stuff has gotten a lot better. But more than anything, the best thing to answer that question is ask women. Like,
yeah,
pay attention to what women are saying about that question and that topic and everything.
The last thing I will say, I mean, Wild855 says Horizon Zero Dawn shows progress, right? And like, yeah, definitely it shows that shows progress. But like, the way I will put it, and this is a thing that I was told a couple of years ago that really kind of opened my eyes up to the disparity, because it's really easy as a dude to not think there's a big problem. Like, I understand that perspective, but like every time you've played a game like Tomb Raider or like Horizon Zero Dawn or anything like that, if you've had a moment where you've thought like, man, I can't really get into this character quite as much because I'm not a woman and I'm playing a woman, like, that's a totally fair, like, natural kind of reaction to have to something like that. And just the main thing to remember is like, that for a long time was 90% of games for every female gamer, right? Like, is the fact that you're having that reaction is just like kind of what female gamers have been having that reaction to single-player male games for a very, very long time. And like, when they played God of War or when they played any of those things, like, that's just how they had it. So I don't think having that reaction is wrong. I think having a conversation is a good thing to have. So no, they're not great, but they have work to do, and things are getting better. People are talking about it, and that's more than we could say, you know, even 2 years ago. I think people were still talking about it, but not as seriously, which is cool. Let's take another one. Moving on. Kunifu asks, do you have a favorite PC hardware accessory that you've held onto for a long time due to the idea of upgrading it being too much of a quote-unquote risk? For example, I think my old headset is perfect because I have the mic setting just right and it doesn't feel like it's breaking my ears off after prolonged use. That's fair. For me, it's my stupid membrane keyboard that I love. Like, to be honest, like I use a Corsair Case 70 in the office and on the LPC, I believe, too. But like, I love this stupid membrane keyboard, and the idea of readjusting myself to a new keyboard is like frightening to me.
I'll agree with that one. I used a membrane keyboard for a long time, and I think I finally now have a mechanical keyboard at home. But even my office keyboard is it's like the Logitech something, but it's their membrane keyboard that has all the bells and whistles and mostly feels like or performs at the level of a mechanical keyboard, but with the still feeling of membrane. So yeah, I agree to that.
What about you, Steven?
Either my headphones, I have these Sennheisers, which are awesome, and like I can wear these for hours, and my head, like my ears don't hurt, my head doesn't you don't get like that pain point on the top of your head from where it rests. So I'm gonna be real sad when these eventually die one day. Other thing is, like, I love my G9X mouse. If I ever have to replace that mouse, I'll probably have a funeral for it. A Viking funeral. I'll sail it down a river and then light it on fire. Because it's weird how you can grow an attachment to like something as you know, dumb as a computer mouse, but like we've been through some stuff, this mouse and I, and no, but it's just an insanely comfortable mouse. I have it perfectly. The DPI settings are perfect on it. Like it would just suck to have to adjust to something new. So I have a large affinity for that.
All right. There are lots of questions today, so I'm going to keep on moving. Gildive asks, if you could bring any one game from the past and have it remade today, assuming the remake is good, what would it be? So the question I have, so like remaking, like I think this means like could be like a total redux, right? Like if you brought, let's say,
yeah, it's not just like a remaster. It's doing a redux.
Like, what if you did, like...
I'm going to jump in and use this question as... I'm taking advantage of the guarantee it will be good and say my answer is FF7 because they are doing a remake of that, and I really, really hope it doesn't suck like it probably will.
That's a good answer. I mean, it's a pretty looking remake.
Yeah, it's going to look great, and that's the reason why people want it to exist is because it takes this beloved game that, let's be honest, looks like shit, and then we also have what it could look like in the visuals from Advent Children, the movie, and even that tech demo of FF7, the like intro from, I guess it was with the original PS3, I think. And so we have this like vision of what it could look like, and people are like, "Oh my god, that would be amazing!" But the idea of like what makes that game good is everything about the game, and so changing all of it, is it even really the same thing? So
yeah, if it even comes to PC, they haven't announced that one for PC yet. But
they
teased us running Final Fantasy 15 on a PC card, right? And then they still haven't announced the actual PC version.
And like you have to believe that like that conversation is at least being seriously considered, because the amount of Final Fantasy games that are now have come out on the PC in the last few years, and how well they've apparently done launching onto Steam with older Final Fantasy games, like you have to like to me I would just be like, it's crazy to not launch Final Fantasy 7, the remaster, whatever they're calling it, and 15 at some point maybe on PC.
Yeah,
I hope.
Seems crazy that they wouldn't, but we'll see. We haven't gotten a Red Dead 2 announcement either, so
just grumbling.
All right. I'm going to say the very, very, very first Zelda, remade as an open-world Zelda game. I don't know what that might look like. No, I'm okay. Moving on.
So you're using the mandate of this as just to bring it to PC.
Yeah.
I would call it Exhale of Nature.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah.
Thank you.
That's great. We got JBJ Blaze with a question. Have you ever had computer tech that needs replacing or upgrading, but after a big computer issue, you passed on it for too long? For me, it's a Logitech G500S, or G500s, that I finally got returned to manufactured, even though its warranty ended in November. Getting a 502 was a replacement. Have to return from manufacturer my WD black drive for my desktop, among other upgrades for it. So a computer tech that needs to be replaced or upgraded, but you just like didn't for a while? Is that the question? I'm having trouble understanding the question. I will say I thought my hard drive was dying for a long time before I got my new like 1 terabyte external. I was using, I think I've said this on the show before, I was using a 750 gigabyte hard drive that I took out of my gaming laptop after the graphics card on the gaming laptop died, and they said it was going to cost the same amount as the laptop to replace the card because it was like not made anymore. So I literally flipped open the laptop, took off the bottom, unscrewed the laptop hard drive, put a piece of Velcro on one side of it, and then Velcroed it into my case and plugged a SATA cable into it. And that was my hard drive for about a year and a half.
Oh, man.
If it works.
And it worked fine. And then one day I did a speed test on it. Like I compared the speed on it, and it was abysmally slow. This drive, to give you an idea of how slow this drive was, Steam would download faster than it could write to the drive.
That is slow.
So I would be downloading a game from Steam, and it would like download for 20 seconds and then just stop downloading because it couldn't write the data to the drive quick enough.
That's so funny.
And then it started making a buzzing noise, and I was really worried I was going to lose all of my information. So I got like a WD Blue 1 terabyte drive. And I will say hard drives, I waited way too long, and hard drives are not the type of thing that you should wait on when you think they're about to die at any moment. That's like the thing you should fix quickly.
Here's your friendly reminder, back up your data.
Yes. Thank you, Bo. But that was fun. That was a hoot.
I love that you went to the effort to Velcro it to the side of your case. That's impressive.
It's got to go somewhere.
Well, you could just throw it in there. Just let it dangle.
All right, let's see if there are any other questions we can take really, really fast. All right, I think that's all of our subscriber questions, which I'm glad I was able to hit. Mutton Bandit really quickly asked if anybody playing Division 1.6 in the Last Stand expansion. Not sitting at this table, but James has been playing it a bit, and we actually have a guide that, if it isn't up already, is about to go up about the 1.6 expansion to the Division. So yeah, it just went up. So you are welcome to go to pcgamer.com/the-division-build-guide, and we have information about the 1.6 update over there. But that's all the time we have for today. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. I hope we didn't drive you too crazy with talking about Zelda. We did our best, but it's what we're playing a lot lately, in addition to PCE things. Steven is just smiling like he's out.
I'm not playing Zelda.
It was like 5 minutes of Zelda talk. If anyone was really that upset by it, they could get over it. Next week, I'm going to come back and we're going to be talking about... I'll talk about real PC things. I'm sorry. Okay?
Steven, I want you to give me a comprehensive tech breakdown of your computer next week. That's what...
I'll just open it up live while I'm
benchmark it.
Still running.
Benchmark it on live on the show, just so we can prove that you're not just lying to us.
I'm not a poser. Somehow got this job and I don't even own a PC. Streaming from a
Steven
MacBook.
has had his Switch up on its kickstand below his camera the entire show, and he's just been playing Zelda the entire time.
I should have done that. That would have been hilarious. You asked me a question. Sorry, what was that? You just hear the sound of me picking up rupees.
All right.
Man.
That's all we got time for today, guys. But thank you very, very much for coming and joining us. We'll be back again right here at twitch.tv/PCGamer or PCGamer.com/podcast if you'd like to listen to the audio or leave us a comment there. Or you can come see the shows fully recorded on youtube.com/PCGamer after the fact. But thank you very, very much. And we'll see you right here, 1 p.m. Wednesday Pacific time next week, where I'll be back to talk about PAX East after I go there.
That's cool stuff.
That'll be fun. See you guys then.
Bye.